each Christian is going to have to independently make this decision privately, and I would hope with much prayer. There is a very great deal, I think, that we can do, and you have to individually decide what it is that you can do, whether you would, what you're going to support by way of petition, speaking out, and so on. I think this has to be a private, individual matter.
All right, thank you. Jenny, do you have anything to add?
I think if we have opportunity to talk to the people that matter, I think that's important. I was invited to a political meeting before the last election, and I felt to go because I knew the people who were running it, although I'm apolitical in that sense. But it was a wonderful opportunity to have a platform to ask these who was in the opposition at that stage as to how if they got into power, what were they going to do with the abortion laws that had been brought in by the current reigning government. And basically their answer was horrific, because they said, look, we don't agree with abortion, but it's not a politically we shouldn't go out and completely ban abortions. Maybe we could have counselling or something like that. So it as Barbara says, I think it's something that we need to prayerfully consider. And when we do have opportunity to talk to our friends and family, our colleagues about this, that we allow the Lord to speak.
Thank you. And Katie, if you have anything to add?
I absolutely agree with both Barbara and Jenny that this is something that needs to be considered with very much prayer and conviction. In my personal view, I absolutely support Christians supporting these laws, because as Christians, we have to stand up for God's views. And yes, we may receive backlash for voicing these opinions, but sometimes the hard thing and the right thing are the same.
I've heard this argument, the underground abortion industry. You want women to, go underground and they might hurt themselves, or other people might hurt them in the process.
You have the same situation with bank robbers. Having laws against robbing banks doesn't stop it all, but it diminishes it. And I think that it's a logical fallacy to say that all of the abortions would, in fact, simply continue. I think that the law would have an effect, making the numbers smaller.
I think the law would make an effect, and I'll give you my own personal example. In 1991, when our adopted son came along, we had already waited 7 years, which was a long time. And then I was told that in 1991 in the state of Queensland there was only 8 children put up for adoption that year. And at that time there were 1,500 couples on the list, on the waiting list. So I hope that any laws that came in would increase the potential for adoption and even foster care.
I agree. And I think it's absolutely true that simply banning and outlawing abortion is not going to solve the problem. I do think that there will be women who do harm themselves, and that's unfortunate. But yes, I do think the law would have an effect. The demand will still be there for abortion, and women facing this crisis, unfortunately, yes, will harm themselves trying to perform or receive an abortion. But this should not be a hall pass to say that abortion is okay. The question isn't as much how does advocating for abortion to become illegal violate a woman's right to her own health, as much as it is how do we go about protecting the health of the babies in the womb along with the women who carry them. And I think one aspect of that is lowering the rate of unintended pregnancy. And I'm not sure about other countries, but in the United States, I know we're not addressing birth control, but it can be ridiculously expensive, even with private insurance. And most people have insurance through their employer, at least in the US. And as of 2020, the Supreme Court ruled that it's okay for employers to deny that coverage on moral or religious grounds. So if we're going to tackle abortion as it relates to women's health from a legal point of view, then we need to provide that better access, along with examining other common reasons for abortion, instead of just putting a legal blanket statement over the entire country by banning abortions without taking into account why they're so often desired in the first place.